Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Senator Rick. It's Secretary Blinken. Thanks for your superb service and for being here today. I have three quick items, then I want to get back to Israel, Gaza on the humanitarian dimension. First, I really believe that Congress should lift its hold on the support to the multinational security force in Haiti, and I worry that the refusal to do that is really complicating our maybe small ability to push this in the right direction. If Congress does not release the hold on appropriated funds to fund this security force, what's going to happen?
Well, if we don't have those funds available, then it's going to be very hard to move forward with the security force. And look, again, I understand and respect those who express concerns about the success given the history, but I think we have a very clearly defined and achievable mission for the security force, which is to bolster the police and put them in a position where they can reassert effective control.
It was hard. It was hard work for you guys to get Kenya to agree to lead this. If we don't come through on our financial commitment, isn't it pretty likely that they'll back?
They will. They certainly will.
And then who would take up the mantle if the U.S. is not providing?
No, I think that's exactly right. The Kenyan president will be in Washington this week for a state visit. It would be good if we could fully deliver on our commitment. But second, I just say too, here's an instance where I know some people have concerns about the United States being the quote-unquote policeman of the world. Well. Here's a situation where Kenya and a number of other countries have stepped up and are willing to take this on, but they need support.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a second one. This is very parochial. The State Department requested medical providers in Northern Virginia to snap together to provide medical services to Afghans coming into Dulles Airport. When Afghans came in the summer of 2021, they largely came into Dulles. 3 of the 8 resettlement sites were in Virginia, and we now have more Afghans than any other state from that initial wave, and we're proud of it. Our Afghans are doing great work. I've met some training to be shipbuilders. They worked with us in Kabul, and now they're training to be shipbuilders and help our industrial base. But the healthcare providers that responded to the State Department haven't been paid. They did all this medical service. It was about $630,000. It's not that big an amount. We've been asking over and over and over again that they be paid. We sent a letter to the State Department. It was bicameral in January. Haven't gotten a response back. Will you work with me to make sure that these folks who jumped to attention when the State Department asked are treated fairly so that if you ask, they may do it again?
Happy to work with you on this. We have looked into this, and we have some further information that we can share with you. But the initial bottom line is that we had our procurement executive investigate this. We learned that the company in question acted apparently on its own, maybe out of very good motivation, but without any contractual agreement with the Department of State or with the Cherokee Nation in this case.
Well, so I want to follow up because the ones that I'm talking about are folks who are directly requested.
I'm happy to follow up with you on that.
And then third, this is really for Senator Hagerty and me. We have a company, Vulcan, that's U.S.-based firm that's got presence in Virginia, Tennessee, and other U.S. states. They own a port and land in Mexico. AMLO has tried to appropriate that land twice, even with police and military invasions of the property. I'd rather not get into that now, but I would love your commitment to work with me to make clear to the Mexican government that appropriating the private property of American companies would be very bad for this important relationship that we have with Mexico.
Yeah, I believe that's subject to a proceeding in arbitration right now, but we certainly made the generic point to the government of Mexico, including to the president, that yes, seizure of private companies is not a good way to attract investment.
On Israel, Gaza, I think my colleagues, Senator Merkley and Senator Van Hollen, have dug into this, but I want to particularly focus on what I call Pillar 2 of NSM 20, which is a certification that a nation receiving U.S. military assistance is cooperating with U.S.-supported humanitarian efforts. I think the Pillar 1, making a determination about whether Israel is or is not using these weapons in accord with international law, is more complex. But on the humanitarian side, look, World Central Kitchen aid workers killed, other UN aid workers killed, settlers attacking humanitarian aid convoys on the West Bank, throwing stuff off the truck, setting the aid on fire, setting the trucks on fire. The U.S. having to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to build a pier in Gaza. Virginians from Fort Eustis are building that pier and deployed to do it. All of that, to me, says you wouldn't have, none of that would be happening if Israel was fully cooperating. It took too long to open Kerem Shalom. It took way too long to open Erez. I think my editorial opinion, you've already answered questions about this, certifying that on that record, the humanitarian efforts of Israel to help Gazans who are non-combatants, who aren't part of Hamas, is sufficient. I think that's grading on a curve that if that's sufficient, then anything's sufficient. I don't think it's anywhere near sufficient. I don't think it's in the time zone of sufficient. I agree it's more than was started. I mean, at the beginning, members of the Israeli cabinet said it was going to be a complete siege against Gaza, and I know that President Biden was able to get an agreement finally to open up the Ariz crossing, but I think calling this state of affairs sufficient cooperation with U.S. humanitarian effort, I just think that demeans the credibility of the administration. And I think you should have said you're not getting a passing grade on this, and then laid out what more needs to be done. The number of trucks going in. When Cindy McCain, the widow of a former member of this committee, talks about the famine that's resulting, I mean, I just don't see how the U.S. can say that's enough. I mean, I credit my colleagues of saying, let Israel defeat Hamas. Let Israel, with our help, knock down Iranian drones and missiles. I'm all for that. But the punishment of non-combatant civilians, the killing of aid workers, the ransacking of humanitarian aid convoys with the idea of doing very little to stop it, how can that be sufficient?
Well, we have, as you know, Senator, from day one, been working on this every single day. And that includes going back to October, getting the initial crossings open, including in October, Rafah, then later Kerem Shalom.
In December, 2 months later.
In December, yes. So this is
Ariz in March or April.
Ariz, crossing 96, the Jordanian route, et cetera. At the time of the report, the NSM, which, by the way, I applaud as, I think, an effective and helpful vehicle in terms of concentrating minds and focusing minds on this. I think we've seen that the assurances that we received in March, the question was, from the time we received those assurances to the time that the report was issued, did we judge them to be credible and reliable when it came to humanitarian assistance? And we saw during that period Israel take overdue but important steps to actually expand significantly the provision of humanitarian assistance.
On that statement, I don't disagree. They took steps between March and May, but I think the steps were still woefully,
and I think the report itself, if you read the report, as I know you did carefully, I think the report lays that out very clearly.
Well, I'm gonna call on Senator Scott because he's next, but I just think on the factual record, yeah, improvement since March, yes. I still think it falls so far below the hurdle that I don't think that warranted a passing grade. With that, I'm going to go to Senator Scott.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us this morning.